Hello, everybody. I'm George from Ireland. Thank you for coming back to my channel. This is about the alleged Chinese spy ring in the United Kingdom, because just yesterday, three men in the United Kingdom were arrested on suspicion of espionage on behalf of the People's Republic of China. So I'm not saying they're guilty. I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and that includes these three, but most notably is David Taylor, who is the husband of Joanne Reid MP. She's the Labour MP for East Kilbride and Strathaven, which is in Scotland. And the two other men who were taken into custody for questioning are Steve Jones, who's 68, and Matthew Applin is 43. Notably, all three are white Britons. They're not ethnically Chinese at all. And so far as I know, don't have significant ties to China, not married to a China woman or hadn't lived in China for a long time or something like that. And so one of them, that Mr. Jones, he used to be a special advisor to the Welsh government. And Applin, he was a press spokesman for the Labour Party, but in South Britain. So goodness, and counterterrorism police arrested them. The MI5 have got that special police unit. I forget what it's called, SO something or other, because of course MI5, the security service, it doesn't have the power of arrest. It'll harvest the information and hand it to the police, who will make a file. Yes, there are reasonable grounds of suspicion, and so on. Okay. So that's it. Now, Miss Reid says that she had no suspicion about her husband, so that he was a legitimate businessman and things like that. Nevertheless, she has resigned the Labour whip temporarily until this matter is resolved. So, yeah, they could be all completely innocent. But there have been other allegations about this, about people within Westminster, the Westminster Village, as in, so could be members of Parliament, their aides, special advisors, some top civil servants, some journalists, anyone in and around that space who would have access to sensitive information. There was a Chinese woman that the United Kingdom thought was trying to infiltrate Parliament. There was Yang Tengbo, Prince Andrew's friend, who's now had his visa to reside in the United Kingdom revoked. Yeah, so we've got these three people, which of course could be nonsense. And there were those two men who were charged with espionage on behalf of China, but the case collapsed at the last minute because His Majesty's government was not willing to label the PRC a hostile state. And those two men who were charged, they were also white Britishers. So there was that man who was found dead in a park in Maidenhead, a former military man, and I think he was sort of a immigration police officer. And was it murder? Was it suicide? He'd been charged with espionage. He'd been bailed, and so on. And of course, he was a white Briton as well. There could be more ethnic minority Britons. But the point is, if China does hire these people, they're usually not ethnically Chinese, whether British citizens or not. So sometimes they are. Why? Do they think, oh, a Chinese person would come under suspicion more or whatever, or wouldn't have access to such secrets and things like that? Yeah, because, wow. Developed vetting, they wouldn't get through that. But I mean, I don't think any of these people have got through developed vetting, which is a very extensive interview process of you, of a couple of referees, someone who's known you in your working life, someone who's known your personal life for several hours each, to see that you're completely truthful and whatever, and no grounds for suspicion and stuff like that. So the commander of the counter-terrorism policing unit in London, Helen Flanagan, said there's no imminent or direct threat level, as in they didn't think they were about to set off a bomb or shoot somebody or something like that. Goodness. So, wow. So, yeah, there's obviously very extensive Chinese espionage in the United Kingdom, because it sees the United Kingdom as hostile. Even the UK is stupid enough not to see China as hostile. Obviously, the UK is not at war with China, hasn't been at war with China for a very long time. So I'm not xenophobic. No one should be mistreated on the basis that he or she is Chinese. I mean, Chinese music and dancing and architecture and food and all that can be marvelous. And they have got tremendous economic achievements and things like that, right? And they're far more advanced in Ireland or Great Britain, many centuries ago. So all that is entirely admirable. But the Chinese government is definitely tyrannical. You think of the genocides against the Uyghurs and so on. And there's no freedom of expression. There are no real elections. There are no fair trials. The death penalty is very extensively. Even the number of people they execute is secret. They execute people for crimes which are far less than murder, even a possession of drugs and things like that. So that is very heavily oppressive and cruel. goodness. So it is a totalitarian state, but obviously it lets capitalism rip. Goodness. Okay, so and then the UK has given that go-ahead to the Chinese embassy. The old Royal Mint building off of the Tower of London. Is this just more idiocy? But it's a very mixed picture, because apparently there's some people at MI5 and MI6 say, no, it's easier. It's all consolidated in one site than it's on 7 sites. I mean, I don't know. So I suspect that China is very actively trying to harvest secret information on the United Kingdom. Okay, and I don't blame them. I mean, almost all countries of a significant size spy on each other. Of course, the United Kingdom will be spying on China. I don't know anything about it, but no arrests so far as I know. The one thing is, you look at the much more low-level espionage, like about 10% of Chinese adults are members of the Chinese Communist Party, and they have to pledge lifelong allegiance to the party, do anything for the furtherance of its goals, and that would include espionage. And people like in sort of Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. I'm not saying everyone at HSBC is doing that. Business executives and academics and so on, and also undergraduates, postgraduates, harassing people, dissidents, protesting against protesting. I remember seeing this in Edinburgh. It was so orchestrated. It was so fake. One China, and supposedly crying and having a bandaged teddy bear to protest against those people in Hong Kong who said, no, we're having our freedom. You know, when Hong Kong returned to China, the pledge was in the international treaty, legally binding, that Hong Kong's freedoms would be honored for at least 50 years. And they weren't. And they took that away, and they banned political parties, and they took away free expression and so forth. So it was all very worrying. So what they would be spying on? Technology. They would like that. Any sensitive financial information, anything about government policy, any way they can manipulate people, their recruitable vulnerabilities, about their sexual proclivities, or a drinking problem, or a drug habit, or gambling, or financial problems. So what about government policy? What about the UK's next move? Technology. They're very much into stealing technology. They've been doing this for decades. And of course, in the 90s, when China was much smaller economically, much weaker, countries could have clamped down. No, we're not allowed to do that. We're punishing you to stop. And they would have stopped. But China is way too big to stop now as the second biggest economy. So I have no idea whether these men are guilty or not. And, the charges, well, they don't, so far as I know, they're not even being charged. Even if they are charged, the charges might be dropped. Even if they were prosecuted, they could be acquitted, or the case could be just withdrawn by the Crown Prosecution Service, and so on. Even if they were convicted, they could win on appeal or something like that. So a very long way from proving that they've done anything wrong. But I solemnly prophesy this shan't be the last time that arrests are made suspecting people of spying on behalf of China. And I know how they do it. Well, someone would be useful to them, retired military officers or whatever, invite them to Hong Kong. People are a bit less suspicious, with a very lucrative offer in an interview, which is a dangle, and obviously not openly saying, and by you be spying for us, because that might scare people off. I'm not sure how they would recruit people here. And if people are spying for China who are not ethnic Chinese, why are they doing it? I would think usually money. I mean, it's seldom blackmail. Ideological conviction. There are not very, very few people here who really admire the way the Chinese government does things. And obviously you can stroke the person's ego, say, oh, you're so magnificent, you're the best spy I've ever hired. We'll recognize you. You really outfox them. People who are frustrated, who pass over promotion, who are lusting for vengeance, they can play on that. All right. Thanks for watching my channel. Make sure to subscribe on Patreon, donate, PayPal, georgecannon79@gmail.com. Goodbye.